Welcome to Six in the Six. Tori Lammes. Did I say that right?
Lammes.
I've heard like three different versions, all coming out of the announcer's booth
Yeah,
behind me, so I get confused.
I've heard a bunch too.
I
A
can
bunch of
imagine. I've
different
heard
ones.
more than my three. So, Tori, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad to be here.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I actually just woke up from a nap like 10 minutes ago.
I like that. That means you're an early riser if you
Yeah.
already got a nap in.
Yeah. I thought I had to work today, but I went in and they were like, oh, Laura must have sent you the wrong schedule from last week. And I was like, she definitely did. But I would rather be safe than sorry. And plus, I got breakfast for my family. And then I came home and I was like, I'm pretty tired, so I'm gonna go back to sleep.
Nice. All right. So I used to be able to say usually this is goalies on here, but I seem to have quite a string of goalie relatives. I'll call them friends, family, etc. And you certainly are a friend of a goalie.
Yeah. For some reason, I think it's because my sister was a goalie. I just kind of like worm my way in to find like someone that's like her because my sister and I are best friends. So I try to find like someone like that. Even at my like old school before I transferred here, I was like best friends with our goalies. I don't know, it's just something. Maybe I just have that weird like image, I kind of fit in with the goalies.
It's the goalie recessive gene.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I have it.
when did your affinity towards goalies have you find Natalie?
I would say Natalie and I started playing club in eighth grade together. And then I wouldn't say we were like the best of friends that year. We were just kind of like acquaintances. I was really shy when I first started, believe it or not.
I don't believe it.
Um, yeah, I was kind of very introverted, didn't really want to talk to anyone. I would say Natalie and I started becoming really close probably my freshman and sophomore year of high school. And we would just talk crap to each other like during practices because I would always shoot it low on her. And she'd be like, other goalies are going to catch on to that. And I'm like, well, you haven't. So it was just kind of like that. And our friendship grew over the years. So
Well, that sounds so. That's a little bit about you said eighth grade you started playing lacrosse, or
yeah. So I started playing lacrosse in seventh grade, but I didn't start getting like I didn't know that I was gonna get as good as I did at it because originally when I first started, I couldn't catch the ball. And as frustrating that is as like a seventh grader, you're like, what the heck? Like I suck. I'm gonna quit and play softball. So that was like I didn't think that I was gonna get as good as I did at it. So I didn't start playing club until eighth grade because my mom was like, I don't want to put you in club as a seventh grader and you be like so far behind. So like I worked my butt off to get a little bit better. And one of the refs at my games was like, you should have your daughter try out for common goal. And my mom was like, okay, like I'll look into it, whatever. So she looked into it and then we decided that it was going to be a good fit. So I tried out, made the team. Natalie was on the team and the rest is history. Played under Coach Pete, which was awesome. So glad I get to have that experience with him in college. But yeah, that's
there's
how
some
I started.
long time ties in here. It
Yeah,
seems.
no kidding.
You said something really interesting to me that stood out to me. Back seventh grade, couldn't pass, couldn't catch. It really made me think that the progression of the women's game and from a talent perspective, I think can be tied loosely to the evolution of the equipment. Because
Oh,
to your point, if you're trying to pass and catch with a tennis racket, basically,
I
that's
had that tennis racket stick, like that, the set that came with like the pink bag. I had the pink stick, like the pink and blue strings, the pink goggles, like the narpy looking pink goggles I had.
Well, that's it. And then everyone's like, "Oh, this is horrible. I can't just,
Yeah,
I'm supposed to hit things back with a tennis racket, not catch
yeah.
them."
Had multiple sticks throughout my career, and I have to say, probably gate is the best one I've had. Even that draw stick, like it's just insane. Even if I'm not taking the draw, like it was still like really good for attackers.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the draw stick and just the pockets, the way they're being constructed and strung. It just
Hmm.
the the progression in the ability for the women's game to grow as this equipment evolves is it's pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, it is. It's insane. Like, I'm pretty sure I have some of my old sticks downstairs, but you can tell like it's like flat looking at the side of it. And then you have the ones that have just started to like have that like bend in it. Then you have the 10-degree shafts to help pick up ground balls or whatever. It's just like when I first started lacrosse, that's when it like started to transition to get better equipment. And then again, it still is a very popular sport, so I wouldn't be surprised if equipment was changing over the few years now.
Yeah,
And
I think it's going to constantly, just when you think something can't change, it'll change again.
yeah, like the draw stick.
Yeah,
Like you
I think
never,
what'll end up happening probably is some league or organization will come in and say you can't do this or that again for whatever it is, and right or wrong. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but everyone will level up at that point. We think we're done evolving from an equipment standpoint. All of a sudden, something will come out. It'll be the e racket where you can change your pocket at a click of your Bluetooth.
yeah, who knows?
Hey, we should get on that one. We could make some money.
Yeah, patent it right away.
So talk to me a little bit about your high school career.
So my high school career, I started playing on varsity. I got pulled up in eighth grade a little bit through. So I played JV, and then for sectionals, I got pulled up. I got to play in one game. For that, we played against Brighton. We got our butts kicked, but Brockport really doesn't have like a youth program, so it was like it's hard for the program to excel really because it doesn't start at the youth, and I talk about that all the time. Like we got to get the kids involved if we want to have like a good high school program because that's what all of like the east side teams do. Like they have the youth programs that build up, and it's just amazing because the teams are so good out there. They have a bunch of D1 commits, D2, D3. They're just so athletic out there. um and then my ninth grade year was on varsity. um we were like regular season champions. We had like the best record Brockport has ever seen. I think we went like 13-3 that year. My head coach was Joseph Simboli, great guy, great coach. He really turned the program around that year. And then for the first time in program history, we had our first home sectional game. We beat Hilton by one. So, and we lost them in the regular season by one. So that was a really good start to sectionals. And then the second game after that, we played Victor. Like I said, East Side teams are way better, way more athletic. They beat us 18-0. We didn't score a single goal. My sophomore year was kind of like the same thing. Um, we did really well that year again under Coach Joe Simboli. I don't remember if we made it far in sectionals. I think we lost first round. I can't remember who we played though. I want to say it was like Spencerport, and they had the Coy Kendall sisters. So tough team to beat. You got Aaron probably scoring 8 BTBs on our goalie. Um, and then my junior year, we went 4-12. Oh, also, wait, going back to my sophomore year. So I got to play a little bit of my sophomore year. we actually played sectionals at Churchill. I only remember this because that's the year I tore my ACL. So I tore my ACL in May 16th, I think. I had surgery May 23rd. I was supposed to go to a national tournament that year, for WNY Rock. I made like this national team. It's like supposed to be highly recruited or whatever. For my ACL 5 days before that, and got surgery a week after I tore it. Came back 5 months later and played fall ball for Common Goal.
It's
And
crazy.
then, yeah, I was at PT almost every single day. I just wanted to get cleared, get recruited. Um, Sometimes I would think to myself, like, my recruiting chance is kind of done because I missed like the biggest summer, like the sophomore year of your high school career is like the biggest summer to get recruited. Everyone was saying that. In my head, I was like, well, I need to get back. Like, I need to get back. Fall ball's like my last chance to get recruited. So I was working my butt off to get back, and I came back 5 months later. After the week I got cleared, I played in a tournament for Common Goal. In the first game, I was just like absolutely sucking, couldn't catch the ball, couldn't keep up with anyone. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with me? Like, I've trained for this. I start crying. Natalie comes up to me and comforts me. She's like, hey, like, it's okay. It was your first game back. Like, you have all these nerves. Like, you know how to catch and pass. Like, you did it before. Like, yes, you haven't been doing as much in these last 5 months, but you still know how to do this. And I was like, okay. So then our other team, so we had like an orange and a silver team. The silver team like needed players because not a lot of them could make it. So I went and played with them for a game. And I just like took what Natalie had said and just brought it into that game. I was like, okay, like it's time to go. It's time to play, pretty much. So I had a really good game that game, and then for the rest of the tournament, I played really well. Um, and then junior year, I came, I was back for the season. I don't think we did that well. I think we only won 4 games and lost 12. So the records kind of like reversed my junior year. We did have a new head coach, Amy Nesbitt. Love that woman to death. She is such a sweetheart. But I think our talent was there. We just could not put it in the back of the net. Like, we could never get it off from our defensive end. And it was just hard for us to like keep going back and forth. I'm
So
pretty sure
what,
that was the big
how,
picture of my junior year.
what kind of, I mean, at what point in kind of your career, especially it sounds, well, there's been many points, but the year you're back, you're struggling with that. When did you start to kind of get a sense of value for mindset and kind of leadership and kind of thing? I mean, when did you start thinking differently about that kind of stuff?
I would say probably my senior year is when I really started to capitalize on mindset. Like, just, I knew like we didn't have the best program, but I would do anything to make sure like we would stay in games. Like, I would make sure that, my feeds were on point. If I had the drive to go to goal, I was gonna go. Um, and just like knowing and telling my teammates, like, regardless, like any team can be any team on any given day as long as you give 110% effort. Like, and I still live by that motto to this day, that any team can be any team. It doesn't matter whether if you're ranked number one in the country or if you're ranked 73rd, if that team's going to underestimate you, they could come out on top. It's like the same thing with, like, I always refer back to the Miracle movie where the US beat the Soviets for the first time and they were not suspected to by anyone. Um, so I always like go back to that. And I think like having a lot of losses under my belt during my high school career and like always wanting to go to like a championship and having that experience has helped me with my mindset too, because it's like just go out and play, like you say to me all the time, like just go out and do it, has helped. Um, so yeah, I think my senior year really started to like get into mindset.
So it sounds like sometime sophomore summer, early junior, you knew Embry-Riddle was your destination.
Yeah, so during the summer, um, that I was like hurt, I was just like doing like research on Twitter because I really did want to go Division One. I knew I had like the grit to go. Um, and I was getting looked at by some pretty big D1 schools. But then after I tore my ACL, some of the teams that I like was gonna commit to kind of dropped my scholarship on me. So um I was looking on Twitter and I saw that the official Lax girl, I don't know if you know who that is.
I do from social media at least.
Okay, yeah. So I saw that she had like reposted this thing about Embry Riddle, like having a new women's lacrosse program open up. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just kind of email the school for like laughs, like see what happens. I had no idea where it was. I had no idea it was in Florida. I had no idea it was like a pilot school because it just said Embry Riddle. Um, so I was like, okay, like just gonna email them. Literally a day later, the head coach got back to me and was like, we would love to get you down here for a visit. I watched your film. I absolutely loved you. Let's get on a phone call and maybe we can set up you to come down here. So I told my mom, I was like, oh, the school emailed me back. So I gave her the name and she was like, Tori, that's in Daytona, Florida. Like, are you sure like you'd want to go down that far?
Perfect.
The funny thing is like my family, we would always like go on vacation in Daytona, like as kids and stuff. Always go to Florida for our vacation destination. So it was kind of like a sign for me. And I'm like a big believer in like signs, and it actually like kind of has to do with my dad too, because there's this one song that we played at his funeral where it was like it's live like you were dying, and at the end it says like soar something like an eagle, and their mascot's an eagle, and we would always go down there to Daytona to vacation. So I was like, maybe this is a sign like from God, like saying that I have to go down here and do this. So I went and visited the school in January and toured it, absolutely loved it. It was becoming super modernized, which I loved. Um, all the campus buildings are like made out of glass. Um, the student union was being built like in the shape of an airport, which was like so cool and so iconic. Um, and the sports programs were just up and coming. So I was like, that was like the main reason. And it would put just like my resume on blast, like having a degree coming from there. Um, and I got to major in something really cool and something that I really enjoyed. And the professors were all great there. Um, so after I visited in January, the coach offered me a scholarship, academic and athletic. And it did not take me long to decide at all. Um, my Me and my family, we were talking in our hotel room, and I was like, so what do you guys like think? Like, did you guys love it as much as I did? And did you love like the coaches or whatever? And everyone said, yeah, like it would be a really good decision for you to come here. Like, it's a new women's program. They're offering a brand new major that no one else in the nation has. Um, so the next day I called her, but we were actually going on a cruise. So the next day I called her before we got on the boat and I was like, I can't wait to come down here. I'm gonna commit. And I can't wait to see where the program goes and where I can take this program. So yeah, then my senior year, I signed in October after my soccer season. So I played soccer my last year at Brockport, and then signed in the fall, then had my season in the spring. I think we had the same record as the year before, so not too good. I think we only won 4 games, 5 games maybe. And then I worked hard over summer and went into my freshman year at Riddle. And I started almost every single game. There were a few games I didn't start. But I had a really good season. And then my sophomore season, worked really hard in the off season, and then in the winter I didn't really do as much as I should have, which kind of deterred my playing time a little bit. Then my junior, no wait, before I get into that. So my sophomore season got cut short because COVID. We played 7 games, I think.
Yeah, that I don't. Oh, I can't remember the detail, but I mean there was conference restrictions, if I recall, in Florida, and did
Yeah,
Florida schools
so
not get the minimum games in or something?
oh, so that was my junior year. So hang on, let me get to my sophomore year. So my sophomore year season got cut short because of COVID. We were 7 games in, and I remember after our 7th game, we were practicing, and my head coach got a call from the Rollins head coach. She was actually an alma mater of Rollins and like really good friends with the head coach over there. So she gets a call from him and is like, hey, like I'm canceling practice for the next 2 weeks. You should think about doing this too. So she comes over to our huddle, and mind you, my assistant coach is on her phone, like looking at all the conference teams in the SSC, seeing that their season's canceled, practices are canceled. And my coach is like, okay, like I would say we should finish out practices, but since like all these other teams are canceling, I think it's safe to say we can cancel too.
Right. What's the point?
Yeah, which was like kind of sad for us. And knowing that some of the girls on the team were like seniors, it was kind of like sad at that point. So we were like, why couldn't we just finish out this practice? Like one last practice before, you know, the
Right.
season gets cut short. Um,
Well,
so
we didn't know at that point if it was going to get cut short by 2 weeks, and that people
yeah,
were like,
we
oh,
we
it's
all
really
originally
whatever,
thought,
and yeah, next thing you know, it was a while.
yeah, that's the same exact thing that happened with us. We were like, oh well, it's just gonna be 2 weeks and then, we can start again. 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. The whole rest of the school year is online. We're like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? So I was actually staying in Maryland when classes moved online. I was working really hard, to get that starting spot back. And then we come into the fall, like 2 weeks before our fall season starts, we find out that our president canceled all sports for that season. So for Florida teams, it was you got to play each team in your conference the maximum 3 times. And then so we come around to, spring season, everyone else is playing. We're still practicing with masks on. Can't shoot on goal, can't do contact. It wasn't until probably, I want to say like the last 2 weeks of school, they finally let us do contact. And I think we had like one contact practice, which was kind of BS in my opinion. But hey,
Yeah, it's
I wasn't the one making those decisions.
yeah. I mean, I think it's there's positives to each institution and up making their own decisions. And I guess there would be positives in just kind of a across the board statement, but that was
Mhm.
neither here nor there. Luckily, we're through the other side of it, or so it would have seemed.
Yeah, and I actually had the opportunity to come and see Natalie play at Roberts
Oh, so that's a
for that game against Bentley.
great segue into kind of my next question. So you know, COVID, Florida for your senior year down there. You graduate with uh, aerospace aerospace physiology, if I remember right. I don't even know what the heck that is, but
I'm still trying to figure it out.
we'll save that for a different one. So it's kind of you came to see Natalie against Bentley, and then not too long after that, it kind of became maybe um, time for you to give back to her from her advice she gave you all those years ago on the field when unfortunately she tore her ACL. Um,
Mhm.
how did I mean? Talk to me about your coming up here as a grad student to be a fifth year with us. How wanting to play with your best friend influenced that, and this whole ACL thing. How were you able to help her through some of her tougher times?
Yeah, so I just knew like I knew in the back of my head, like after I graduated, that like I still wasn't ready to put my stick down, but wasn't necessarily sure about like joining a new team, having to like go through that process all over again. Even though like the built-in friendships are literally amazing. Like I love every single girl on this team and I wouldn't trade my decision for the world. Um, I just thought like having another degree before I like get into the Natalie stuff would like just make me more competitive. So that was like no hesitation for me once I knew like Coach Kristen had wanted me to come here. Um and I wasn't necessarily lacrosse training the summer coming into being a graduate student, but I like was working out and everything, like just working out to like make myself happy rather than like working out to stay in shape kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I think
Uh,
it's I think when I think of how you think about fitness and staying in shape and your kind of commitment to it, I you and Nat are really similar in that regard.
oh yeah. She actually, I would force her to come to Planet Fitness with me over the summer, even though she lives like a million miles away from me. Um, which doesn't like separate our friendship at all. Like she will spend the night here. When I had like a twin bed, we would literally be snuggled up like this next to each other, just crashing at every family party that I had. Um, but I would like force her to come to Planet Fitness with me. She would make us like a little workout plan. And then like immediately the next day I would be so sore. I'd be like, Natalie, you're never coming with me to the gym again. Like, why did you do this to me? But
That
it was all good.
that sounds like Nat.
Yeah. Um, so where was I before I got into that?
Yeah, well, so that wanting to come up here and play that last year with her,
Yeah.
and then
Uh-huh.
again, unfortunately, her ACL. So how did you help her navigate through that?
So it was like when I first found out, she actually texted me. So I went to her graduation that day. It was the day of her graduation. So I went to see her graduate with her family, Tim, Deb, and her grandma. And then we got lunch. And then I wake up the next morning and she's like, Tori, like, I really think I messed up my knee. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, what's wrong? And she was like, it like is locking up on me, like being weird. I said, okay. Since I, had that experience, I was like, here's what you're going to do. You need to go get an MRI at the U of R and you need to see Dr. Michael Maloney because I don't want to scare you, but it could be your ACL. So she was like, okay, like I'll do that. So she went like, I want to say that week that I told her, because Dr. Michael Maloney was the doctor that I had seen. He's super comforting, and such a sweet guy. My family loved him. He did my knee good. She's still intact.
Jeez.
Uh, so I told her to go do that. She did. And then a couple days later, she was like, "You're right. It's torn. I'm going to need surgery." And I said, "Okay, like it's up to you when you want to get it," because we had my sister's wedding in June. So I was like, "It's up to you when you want to get it. You don't have to come to the wedding. I know Courtney would love to have you there, but it's ultimately your decision whether you want to get it before or after the wedding." So she thought on that and she was like, "I want to kind of enjoy my summer, so I'm going to get it after we get back from Florida." I said, "Okay." So we go to my sister's wedding and whatnot, and then we get back home. I think she had like the surgery, I want to say the first or second week in July. She got the surgery. It
That
might have been a
sounds
little bit,
right.
might have been like midway through July. I can't really remember, but so she got the surgery. I went and visited her that day. I brought her Olive Garden, some salad and soup. Hung out with her a little bit, even though she was kind of loopy from all the drugs.
How could you tell the difference between her normal self?
She literally was so quiet. She
There
was like,
you have it.
you could tell like someone had did something to her. You could tell for sure. Um, but so I went and visited her. She was doing good. And then she didn't really start getting into mindset until I want to say we started fall ball. And you could just like tell like her being there. She missed it. She missed playing. She just wanted to get back. And since she couldn't be back, I think that kind of like deterred her mindset a little bit. And I was like, every single time she would like text me and tell me how she was feeling, I would be like, "Well, Natalie, look at it this way. Like a few months ago, you couldn't even walk without crutches. You couldn't ride a bike.
Right.
Now you can ride a bike. You can walk without crutches." I said, "Imagine what months 4, 5, and 6 look like, or 7, 8, and 9." I was like, just set a small goal each week for yourself to improve at, because that's what's going to get you through. And looking back, I didn't really like look at it that way when I was going through my rehab. I was just more of like, let's get back, let's get back. Like, do everything you can, something small, and then make it into as many reps as you can. Like, just get stronger. That was like my mindset then. But now that I had that experience and like reflecting back on it to help my best friend get through it, it was like, okay, what can I tell her to not overload her? Because you can't overload yourself going through that type of rehab because it will mess up your mentality.
Right.
Um, so I would just tell her like every time she was feeling sad or like she missed lacrosse, I would be like, "Well, look at this, like you're one step closer to being in the net." And I remember like her first practice back, like actually getting to go in net, get shots, not necessarily like do contact, but like have those repetitions from other
Right.
people other than you shooting on her. Um, you could just see like how much that lit up her world. And I was like, okay, well, now the next step is like you fully getting cleared. Like you might not be there yet, but you're there. Like you're in the net, you're getting those reps.
But then it gets
Um,
tough again, right? Because it's
yeah,
almost like when you're not back in, you're so determined to get there that it's first it doesn't seem like you can get there because
yeah,
every either little step or every smack in the face is like, oh, I can't. But now you've reached that.
yeah,
Now that cycle starts again because okay, well that's great, but I need to be in contact now or
yeah,
whatever the next step is.
yeah. And so I just like, I remember it was her birthday and she had her first, um, I want to say, I don't remember what just like the test to get cleared. I forget what the test is called. So she had that. And I remember calling her. We had a game that day. I remember calling her and I was like, hey, like, happy birthday. How did it go? She like, you could just tell like she was so heartbroken, her voice over the phone. And I remember saying to her, I was like, Natalie, I'm proud of you. Like, it doesn't matter that you failed. Like, big deal. Like, you get to take it again. Like, it's not like you're missing a once in a lifetime opportunity type of thing. Like, you get to take it again. And if you fail
Right.
next time, so what? You get to take it again. And she was like, okay. Um, so I think she failed one more time. So the next time after that, she failed. And then her doctor was like, we're not taking this for a while. Clearly, like, you're not ready. And she was like, what the F? You know her. She kind of was like, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to play. Like, I don't understand why I can't pass. Um, so I think like her doctor telling her that she had to wait really got to her too. Um, because you could just tell, Natalie, she wears her heart on her sleeve, whether she says she's like emotionless or not. Like that girl wears her heart on her sleeve. And at that point, I was like, okay. So throughout her journey, like I would send her these quotes from the ACL Club, which is something like I found to be really helpful. They post like other people's stories on there, how they got through their rehab, motivational quotes. And I still like see their posts every now and then because sometimes like I'll think about me tearing my ACL when I'm playing. I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't do like a roll dodge because that's the way that I tore it. But I do roll dodges every single day. But sometimes it'll like pop up in my head and be like, oh, don't do that. Um,
Right. I think that's one of the hardest parts coming back from an injury is especially the exact scenario it happened in.
yeah.
There's that question, and who knows what the result of that slight glitch in your movement is because you thought about that for a second.
Oh yeah. And when it happened, um, we actually had like film of our game. So when I like knew I was hurt, I didn't necessarily know what it was yet. So like I went back and watched a film. You can like see my leg just like stiff and I tried to roll. And then you can see me like just like hobbling. And I like gave my teammate the ball. I was like, take it. Like I did something bad. Um and then I played the rest of the game on it because I was like, okay, like my knee, yeah, it feels weird, but like I can play.
Right.
So I did that. And then I got an MRI, went to the doctors, and come to find out it was torn. So, um, but for Natalie's sake, like, I'm kind of glad her rehab happened the way it happened. I think she learned a lot from it.
I would agree.
She stepped into a completely new role, which I think was great for her as a leader. Um, and I really think it opened up her eyes to a whole new perspective on being an athlete. And now that she's back, she's kind of killing it. Every time she steps in, she just has that go, go, go mentality that I knew was going to pop open when she got back in net. Um, and I'm so happy for her.
Well, and I mean, even and go back to I think one of the things she got out of that experience as well was we talked about it, right? You're so determined to get somewhere, and just it fits in with her and yours. You're like this as well, the personality type where it's like yeah, I'm just going to keep fighting through it, and
Yeah.
it's more so it didn't. I don't know if it necessarily that's nothing she learned new from that experience necessarily, but I think it reinforced, like it would for any of us, that hey, that's actually not smoke and mirrors. It's true.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think Natalie's just like down to earth fighter, like will fight for what she loves. And I think when someone was telling her, no, you can't play, and she was like, read between the lines, I'm gonna go play. Um, and she just pushed through it. And I kept telling her, I was like, you just have to keep going. Like, do not give up now. And the amount of time she would tell me, like, I want to give up. Like, I don't even want to play anymore. It's not worth it. And I was like, no, it is worth it. Like, just trust me. It's worth it. You just have to push through now. Like, regardless of you not being cleared, like, look at you in net. You're saving so many shots. Like, nothing has faded away. I was like, you just have to get past this point. This is like the final step of the staircase. I told her that. I was like, this is your final step. It's just this one more hump. And she was like, okay. And then she got cleared and she's back.
Yeah. So, man, we could go on forever. A lot of those points.
Yeah.
But I want to hit one more thing. I want to be respectful of your time too. So
Okay.
you now give back to the youth community for as a coach with Common Goal.
Yeah.
How we just ended up talking a lot of mindset stuff. I mean, all the way back to you tearing yours and working hard to get to Riddle. How
Mhm.
has how has the mindset, all those lessons all along that road, right through where you're at now, um, how's that? How do you think that's made you a different coach than you would have been, even 5 years ago?
So I think all the lessons that I've, had growing up, and being the coach that I am, I always focus on like I tell my girls all the time, like, I don't care if you're improving, I care if you're growing. Because I think that there's a really big difference between improvement and growing because you can only improve so much at something versus like grow so much at something. So I really hone in on that, like at our practices and stuff. Like I would rather have my girls grow than improve. Um, so for me, the taking like my mindset from growth mindset to improvement, or I'm sorry, from improvement mindset to growth mindset has really helped me as a player and having the tools that I have, um, from being a player and enforcing that on my girls, has really helped. Um, yeah, I really focus on that, on like helping my girls grow into the best player that they could possibly be.
How
Really
important
bad.
to you is it that you know that message gets across, and they, more than just that kind of mindset message, but how it flows out into their, how do you go through practice, and how do you, anything that
Yeah,
impacts
so
their life, how important to you is that they understand and implement that?
I now that they're getting older, I think that they're starting to take a bigger role in understanding that. Like when they were younger, they didn't really understand, they were just kind of there to, try a new sport or whatever. So I started coaching them when they were fifth graders. They're seventh graders now going to eighth grade. Um, so when they were younger, they didn't really understand the way that I coach. I just kind of, when they were younger, we really just focus on like fundamentals like pass and catch the ball. At that time, when they were fifth graders, to be honest, I didn't really have the patience for that. I was like, why aren't they catching the ball? Like, this is so frustrating to me.
You didn't flash back to your pink stick and tennis
Yeah,
racket?
I did have to have that moment where I was like, hang on, Tori, like, they're so young. Like, give them time to develop, give them time to grow. So, a few years go by or whatever. Um, we're at that point now where their lax IQ is starting to grow, their fundamentals are starting to grow, and they're overall just like really developing as their own individual player. Like they all have their individuality. I can't even tell you, not a single girl plays like one another. They all bring something to the table. Every single girl on my team brings something to the table, which is what I absolutely love. Like we have, yes, like all the girls that work really hard, some that are still there just because they want to play a different sport, but that's okay because sometime down the road they might realize that this is something they might want to pursue in college. They might want to be a college athlete.
Right.
But now I think that they're getting older. You know, we tell them all the time, like, watch film. This is how you're going to grow. You'll see so many different players, so many great different players do different things that'll develop and grow your IQ or develop and grow your stick skills. When I was younger, I used to watch Kayla Trainer on freaking repeat. Let me tell you, it would be up on our TV in the living room. My mom was probably sick of it. Like she probably doesn't want to watch that film highlight anymore because I watched it just as many times as I watched Spirit as a kid, okay? Like if that highlight tape was a CD, it would be burnt out. That's how many times I watched it. But I tell them all the time, I stress film. I'm like, this is how you guys are going to grow. Like, I can only teach you guys so much in an hour and a half or 2 hours where you can go and implement this on your own. And Paige and I, so Paige, my older sister, is a head coach. I'm the assistant. Paige and I really try to stress like the importance of like it being a team sport, regardless of like their individuality and what they all
Right.
bring to the table. We stress how important it is to like blend their personalities as a lacrosse players together. Like we always try to blend what everyone brings to the table. So every time like we have a new set of 7 girls on the field on offense or defense, um, we try to bring out something that each of them can do. Like one will be like a great feeder, one will be a great driver. So we'll set things up. We have so many different plays revolving around each girl on our team so they can stand out, so they can do what they need to do. Um, which I think they understand too, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
well, I love the approach. You mentioned their lax IQs and increasing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the reasons why. And from what I was able to see at the smiles and hugs at the last game when they came to see you, I'd say they,
Yeah.
at least appreciate that approach.
Yeah. I know sometimes Paige and I can be hard on them, especially when they don't pay attention. That's like our biggest pet peeve. They know that. And when they're not working hard, that's like another big pet peeve of mine. I remember last summer, actually, no, it was in the fall. So, fall ball, Paige like couldn't make it to a practice. I hate making the girls run. Like, I don't enjoy seeing them run, but I will make them run if I have to. That's like the difference between Paige and I. Paige is like the more like cool coach. I'm like the one that's like, if you're not working hard, you're gonna get on the line. Um, so I was demonstrating this one drill, and after I was demonstrating it, we did it for like, I don't know, 10 minutes. They couldn't get it down. They didn't understand this. I asked them multiple times if they understood it. And they were like, yeah, yeah. So we did it one more time because I was like, okay, if you guys understand it, we're going to do it one more time. If you don't get it, like we're on the line. Still didn't get it. So I'm like, okay, everyone get on the line. So it was only like, I think we ran from the restraining line to the end line like 30 yards, not a big deal. Um, one of the girls walks over the line, doesn't run all the way through. That made me blow up. I was so upset. I was like, all right, we're doing 5 more since we want to walk over the line. Let's go. Um, so I just try to work them like, and I try to teach them like responsibility too. Um,
Well,
and just real
there's a
life.
big, there's a big difference between being hard on them based on a set of
Expectation.
expectations. They might be big ones.
Yeah.
Than, being hard on somebody when they have absolutely no idea what standard they're being held to. So,
Yeah. And at the end or at the beginning of like every summer season, Paige and I always sit the girls down on the first practice and we talk about our expectations as coaches for them. Our expectations are for them to go hard every day, to pay attention, and to just try new things and be creative. We love creativity. Anytime we're up on a team by a lot, we always tell the girls, okay, we're gonna just run our plays, and if you have the chance to shoot on goal, since we're up by so much, you need to try something new. A BTB between the legs, Twizzler, we don't care. If you miss, so what? If she saves it, so what? That's why we have a defense. So we always tell the girls, like, just be creative, try something new. You never know where it's gonna take you, what you're gonna learn. So, and that's what I love about coaching too, is like I get to share like my experience with the girls, um and teach what I've been taught to them, which I love. I
so
love coaching.
yeah, it shows, and
Yeah.
I think that says it all. It shows, and because of that, they reap the benefits, as do
Yeah.
you. And that's a great segue into the last. I always end with, let's try to ask who's next a question or something, but I think I can tie that into your CGL team. So if you were to give the one piece of advice that you found most impactful that you benefited from and that you're passing on onto your CGL team, and for anyone else who's listening in.
I would say the biggest thing that I've learned throughout my lacrosse career is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's the biggest thing. It comes down to how much you want it, how much you're going to work for it. Um, and I try to take that with me in whatever I'm doing. Like if I'm trying to beat someone out, at running, my hard just because you have more endurance than me doesn't mean you're gonna win because I will work harder to beat you. That's just my go-to advice for anyone.
I love it, and I've seen a lot of similar. I think there was a Will Smith video going around, like he'll die on the treadmill before he lets you beat him, and just
Yeah.
that's great advice. And I sometimes frame it as, if you can't be 100% of your 100, be 100% of where you're at.
Yeah.
I'd rather have you be 100% of your 70% on any given day than 50% of your 80.
Yeah.
It's probably a horrible example, but
I understand
it's our
it.
podcast. We can do what we want.
Yeah.
Um, Tori, thank you.
You're
We took a
welcome.
lot of
Thank
time this
you.
morning.
I love talking about this. This was awesome.
Yeah, and we will see you in a few hours.
Rock
All
on.
right.
Thank you, Nosy.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
Yeah. See you later.
See ya.